everyone for coming out here today. We went to the gala last night with the Navy SEAL Foundation. Heard President Bush speak. Was an amazing speaker, a hilarious guy, amazing speaker. But I just wanted to remind everyone here that we are here. A lot of us are here because of the people that protect us, and it's the Navy SEAL folks that are in the shadows and actually help us. And unfortunately, some of them have passed away, and that's what we're honoring them today. So, are the guys? Where are the SEAL guys right now? Are they here? Can you guys raise your hand? Are they still on the golf course? Yeah. All right. Let's give a round of applause to them. So thanks everyone for coming out again. Appreciate it. The silent auction closes at 4, and then we're going to start the program. Once again, thanks for coming out, and appreciate everyone's support.
On behalf of Jamie and her family, we do want to thank the event committee. You've put such hard work into this event, and the turnout today is amazing. I've been to so many events. And I can tell you for a first-time event, this is an incredible turnout. And that's largely, largely due to the efforts of our event committee and their passion and work. So I just want to say thank you to everyone on that committee. And also thank you to the White Eagle Golf Club. The facilities are amazing. You did an incredible job welcoming us here today. And to do so in the middle of a week does not go unnoticed. We all know what that means, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Also, we'd like to thank all of the sponsors. I think you saw them when you were out golfing on each of the holes. And a very special thank you to our sea, air, and land sponsors, DJK Custom Homes, Battle Bars, 104010 Train American, Chick-fil-A, European Wax Center, Key Mortgage Group, Avision Sales Group, Scientel Solutions, Woody Buick GMC, and Caputo Dental. Thank you all very much for your leadership. And then I'd also like to give special recognition to the Navy SEAL Foundation and Naperville Response for Veterans for your leadership and all that you do for our servicemen and women. My name is Jennifer Collins, and I'm a friend of Jamie's and our featured speaker. And to introduce Frank Larkin is such an honor for me, but to introduce him, you have to have some backstory about how we know each other. So in 2014, my husband, SOC David Michael Collins, had retired from nearly 25 years in the United States Navy, 17 of which he spent as a SEAL. He had done multiple deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq in defense of our country in the global war on terror. He was in other hotspots around the globe during his career. He retired in 2012, but in 2014, he confided in me that something was seriously wrong with him. And he called me from a work trip, told me that he had not slept for 5 days and that he felt stupid. He was one of the smartest people I knew, but he felt like he was losing it, that he couldn't remember cognitively, he couldn't remember his work. He was very anxious, very afraid to get in front of audiences, which was part of his job in training. And after talking with him over the phone for a while and hearing a man that I did not know, and we had spent over 20 years together, I urged him to come home. And over the course of the next 2 months, I tried to help him get help. And there was nothing out there for him. He was not active duty, so some programs that were in existence, very young but there, were only for active duty. I went to the VA. That was not the answer for us. They didn't understand the issue, again, back in 2014. I took him to a Naval Medical Center, and they put him in a lockdown overnight and told him the next day that they thought he just had poor sleep hygiene, that he should not go on his phone before he went to bed. The fact is, over those 2 months, my husband did not sleep more than 1 hour. 1 hour a night. And that was with medicine. And he didn't know what was wrong, and nobody could tell him. And nobody was talking about this issue back then, nobody. He was so embarrassed. He did not want to ask for help. He asked me to keep it quiet. So I was walking that line for 2 months between trying to find him help and telling people that we needed help, but still trying to maintain his dignity and keep him with me. And so over the course of those 2 months, I just watched him spiral further and further down. And he went to a last-ditch effort in Texas. It did not turn out to be the place that could help him. They still could not get him to sleep or even tell him what they thought might be the issue. In about 5 days after he came home, he sent me a text message one afternoon. Said, "So sorry, baby, I love you all." And he shot himself in the head sitting in his truck about 4 miles from the house. Dave loved his country. He loved his family, and he believed fiercely in what he was doing for a living. And I knew that service was primary to him. And when the police came to tell me that they had found him, I don't know, perhaps it was born from my frustration at not being able to find answers for him and not wanting other people to walk this path. I said to the police officer, "Tell the medical examiner that whatever has to happen, I want to donate his brain." And what came from that brain donation was the start of largely what you're seeing here now. We're talking about it. We're raising awareness. We still have a long way to go, but that was the start. It was the seed, because there were findings in that were irrefutable as to what happened to my husband. And I told our children, they were 6 and 9 at the time. My background is in PR and communications, and so immediately that side of my brain kicked in, and I said, I am going to tell the story of what happened to my husband. The world is not going to tell it. The world is not going to tell my children that their father was weak, that he wasn't strong enough. Their father died in combat. It took a few years to kill him. And so, with that, we started to move forward, and I did what I do best, talk. Everywhere I went, I just kept talking and talking and telling people and talking. And it was the foundation. And each year, as more people were added to our group, that foundation grew taller and bigger and wider. Our speaker today, I met in April 2017 when his son also died. Somebody had reached out to me, and because I was the woman who just kept talking, people would call me and say, could you talk to this person? And somebody called me and asked me if I would talk to Frank. And I did. And several years later, somebody called me and asked me if I would talk with Jamie, and I did. And both of these individuals have grown what we started to such great lengths. It's amazing what we've accomplished. And again, we have a ways to go. But from where we started in 2014, when nobody was talking about this, one of my favorite authors is a psychiatrist by the name of Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning about his time in concentration camps and his interest in why some people outside of the Nazis killing people, why some people persevered and lived and others didn't. And that's the basis of man's hope, man's search for meaning. And in it he has a quote, and he says, "What is to give light must endure burning. What is to give light must endure burning." Frank, Jamie, myself, many others, many other families have endured a lot of burning, but I like to think that in the name of our loved ones, we're giving light and we're continuing their service to our country. With that, I'd just like to say, please welcome my friend, Frank Larkin.
How do you beat that?
You can.
Thanks everybody for coming to this wonderful event. Jamie, so honored to be here, and I'm speaking for Jen too. My SEAL brothers, they're here. Different generations. I'm from back before they had outboard motors. They've got better equipment now, but a lot tougher job. So when you talk about Dave Collins, Dave Metcalf, Ryan Larkin, and they're here with us, by the way. It's just in a different form. I don't know if you felt them out there, but they're around. And they would tell you that, and I don't want this to be perceived as a political statement, but they would tell you, they'd be the first to say, don't take your eye off the ball. We just came off the course. It was all about keeping your eye on the ball, but they're referring to a larger challenge that this nation has. These problems aren't going away. We just celebrated a 20-year remembrance of 9/11. And how many people remember where they were on 9/11? Let me see the hands. Come on, stick them up. Don't be bashful, because this was a threshold event in our life, and we can't forget. And these three gentlemen, and my SEAL brothers, the ones that are here, the ones that are other places, their families, they would tell you, if somebody asked them, was it all worth it? Absolutely. What they did, they kept the fight over there, kept it from coming here. How do I know? On 9/11, I was a senior supervisor in the New York field office of the Secret Service. Office was located in 7 World Trade Center, the 3rd highest building of the 2 towers. Got caught in the middle of that attack that day. Beautiful day, like it was out here, crystal blue sky. No warning, everybody went to work, following their routine, and all of a sudden, you know, the world was falling apart around us. Probably should have been dead about 5 times that day. My kids, we lived west of the city, witnessed everything from a hillside. I got reported as missing, didn't come home until midnight that night, covered with dust. My eyes were red. I was coughing, coughed for the next 3 months. 2 weeks later, my son said, "Dad, I'm not, you know, I want you to take me to ground zero. I need to understand what happened." He wasn't sleeping. He was withdrawing. I said, "That's not a good idea. Your mom's not going to go for that." And she didn't. But then I talked to her and I said, "Look, I think there's something here." So I took him down to ground zero. dressed him up in a police raid jacket. By then they figured out that the air that was down there was not healthy to breathe, so everybody was wearing respirators. Put a helmet on and walked him around for about 3.5 hours. The extensive debris field that, and 2 weeks later it was, as for those of you that were at the Navy SEAL Foundation dinner last night, in 43, President Bush alluded to it. It was not a pleasant place to be. It was a pretty horrible place to be, even 2 weeks later. And I said, look, you know, if I see that you can't handle this, we're out of here. And that's our agreement. So we walked it. At the end of 3.5 hours, I said, that's it. Do you have any questions? He said, I appreciate you bringing me down here. Why do I tell you that? Because a number of years later, he came home and said, hey, Dad, I just enlisted in the Navy. And oh, by the way, I volunteered for the SEAL program. And I thought my wife was instantly going to take my head off. And I said, no, I didn't have anything to do with it. I said, look, he's got to cut his own path, and he did. And a few years later, he pinned a trident on his chest and he went to war. Went to war like a lot of the folks in here. And Mr. Schumacher, I'm so honored to be in your presence as a World War II veteran. Thank you for your service and the standing. And the sacrifices that you and your generation made for us, and hopefully we have done you proud as we've taken that baton past to protect the red, white, and blue and what this nation stands for. Thank you, sir. After multiple deployments, combat operations, my son came home, started complaining about the inability to sleep, became very irritable, started having cognitive dysfunction, as Jen alluded to, became short-tempered. You know, all things that were not characteristic of the guy that we dropped off in 2006 to enter the Navy. Very different. Ryan had trained to be a special ops medic, a sniper, and he was a breacher. And eventually it got to a point where he could no longer do his job and he was trying to get help. And unfortunately the system, as Jen alluded to, really wasn't prepared for what these vets were coming home with, or these warriors. And that's what you need to understand. You know, these folks, these men and women, especially, and my focus is on the special operations community, stepped up on the line as volunteers, swore an oath to protect this nation, so we could do what we're doing right now. And that we could live our lives without fear that someone was going to challenge our freedom and our security. But that comes at a price. And the price is that they come home burdened with conditions that you've probably heard about. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, moral injury, you know, because we raise our kids to value life, to follow the rule of law, respect each other. But unfortunately, you know, we've got to go to places to take care of things where that's not exactly how life is lived. So then things get kind of turned upside down. But you come back to a society that's very judgmental. So you keep it all in, and it's like a little Pac-Man inside eating away at you. And now we're becoming more and more aware of traumatic brain injury and what that means, both the impact injury and that related to blast exposure. What am I talking about? Well, eventually Ryan discharged from the Navy because that was the Navy's answer to, hey, look, you're no longer operational. You know, hey, we're all about operations. You're better, you know, the VA's better suited to take care of you. And that was a different experience in of itself. And so we got him out of the Navy, we got him into some programs that we pulled, you know, basically funded out of our pocket. And then we also had help from the Navy SEAL Foundation. Without them, I don't know where we would be, because the system was not responsive. That's the bottom line, it was not responsive. And they were unprepared. And then one day, almost a year later, he came home and he says, "Hey Dad, I'm all busted up inside. I don't think I'm gonna live, you know, to an old age." And of course I'm a dad. I'm saying, "Hey look, you know, we're gonna get through this, you know, we're making progress." He said, "Nah, I'm busted up." He said, "If anything happens to me, I want you to donate my body for TBI research, breacher syndrome research." Breachers are the ones that use explosives to punch through walls and doors. And so on a terrible day in April of 2017, my wife and I came home from an overnight trip, family event, and he had taken we found that Ryan had taken his life in the basement of our home. He was dressed in a SEAL Team 7 t-shirt, red, white, and blue board shorts, and had a illuminated shadow box with all his medals and ribbons next to him. And we never saw it coming. You know, I've got a law enforcement background, I've got a medical background, my wife's a trauma nurse. We never saw it coming. He said, "Hey, I'll never do it. I'll never do it." So we got his brain over to the same research effort that Jen referred to, and then we found out, hey, your son suffered from a severe level of microscopic brain injury that was undiagnosed, but directly related to military blast exposure. So all the weapon systems that he had come in contact with, the breaching charges, the explosives, the improvised explosive devices used by the enemy that would cause these pressure waves to go through the brain. Every time they were going through the brain, they were tearing, you know, the highways in the head, inside the brain, affecting the communication, affecting the ability for the body to maintain balance. And eventually what happened, that started coming out in behavioral manifestations, irregular behavior, cognitive dysfunction, inability to sleep. But what the system said was, hey, you know, you're mentally ill, but I've got some drugs I'll prescribe for you to take care of it. And they focused on treating the symptoms, not going after the root cause. And in the 2 years we tried to rescue him, he was prescribed over 40 different medications. Over 40 different medications. Everything from potions, powders, and creams, all the way up to high-end psychotropic drugs that made him feel like he wasn't even in his body anymore. What we found out from the research was Ryan, and the one thing Ryan said consistently is, something's wrong with my head, but they're telling me I'm crazy. And in the end, guess what? He was right. He was the only one that was right. All along, he knew what was wrong. So when I'm talking to vets now that are struggling with invisible wounds, because when you look at somebody, these warriors that are coming home, they look perfectly fine, but they're banged up inside. It's one thing when you have a disfiguring injury or you lost an arm or a leg, and even those veterans, those warriors will say, hey, yeah, you see how I'm banged up. But my brother or sister over here that looks normal may be worse than me, but you don't see it. Invisible wounds are not invisible to those that suffer from them or their families who are trying to support those individuals. Invisible wounds are invisible to the rest of us and the system that's blind to them. So I tell these vets, hey, you're not crazy, you're injured. And in Ryan's case, just like in Dave's case and Dave's case, they died from combat-related injuries. They just didn't die right away. And it was suicide. And that's a word that hopefully we're reducing the stigma of what that means and what it means to get help. Because very often, as these warriors went to get help, it got weaponized against them because the system couldn't handle it. But hopefully we're opening up the narrative and opening up the awareness. So now that these warriors, these veterans feel more confident that they can approach somebody and ask for help without it having to be turned around against them. The worst thing you can do is separate them from their team, from their tribe. The worst thing. Isolation is the worst thing for a veteran in trouble. So whatever you can do to outreach at the grassroots level, and what you're doing here in Naperville is so critical. You can't put a value on it. But what we need, folks, we need to get to the bottom line. We need to get to the bottom of what's going on. So if there's biological root cause to a lot of these conditions, then we need the science, we need the research, we need the priority of effort to help define what we're dealing with and illuminate the path forward. Otherwise, the system's not going to change. It's going to keep doing a loop. And we're going to keep seeing the debris field follow the 20 years of persistent conflict that we've been in. And when you look at the second, third order effects on the families and the communities, the calculus on that is immeasurable. It's just not the person that we lost. You know, I could go on talking, but I will tell you that the reason the men and women stepped up on the line, and you can ask every one of them, and I'm sure it will come out, I'm confident, in the past 20 years. Why? Because what happened on 9/11 can never happen here again. And they put service above self. And these warriors knew that what they were doing comes at a price. But that does not eliminate our responsibility to take care of them. And we can never forget. We need your support. For us, the Navy SEAL Foundation showed up when nobody else did. Unfortunately, the system does not adequately know how to deal with some of these conditions, especially within our defense sector, and in some cases the VA. And we really need the nonprofits, the grassroots organizations to come in and latch on to folks and the families. Otherwise, I don't know where we would be. The other thing that the Navy SEAL Foundation has done with great courage is they've put this right in front of the command, which now has grown into the larger special ops community that, hey, we've got a problem. We've just lost a couple of operators to another condition. We're starting to see some very bizarre cancers that we think may be directly related to hazardous materials exposures, environmental exposures on the battlefield and in training. And we got to get to the root of that. So there's a price that's paid for the freedom that we enjoy. So when you see these veterans, be sincere in your effort to thank them. That dog barking is me saying, I'm just about to hit my limit. or it's my wife calling, one or the other. But look, you can see I'm passionate about this. It's a serious subject. We're the 20 years of conflict that we've just experienced, we're going to leave a debris field behind us for many generations. If you think that this is over just because of a remembrance ceremony last weekend, you're crazy. You're fooling yourself. We can't take our eye off the ball. And we cannot degrade or devalue what these warriors have done for us in the last 20 years. There's also an aspect to this too that I'll highlight. We've got domestic warriors in the form of our law enforcement officers, our fire rescue paramedics, our frontline medical workers, those that have been out front to protect the society here inside the wire during this past year and a half of COVID. So between the warriors that are wearing the military uniform and serving us outside the wire and those that are inside the wire in different types of uniforms, it's all about protecting this nation and what we value. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. What can you do? Connect to a veteran, stay connected, show your support, help us drive the research. We need the answers. There's a lot about this brain health business that we don't know. We're in early space exploration. We've got to find the answers. And when you talk to people, whether it's somebody that's played football or hockey or been in the military and they've had head injuries or a car accident, you'll find out real quick how tough it is to help somebody that's got a brain injury. It's not something that resolves quickly, and it has a tremendous impact on our society. So we need to get the answers. For my brothers that are here, that wear the trident, thank you for your service and what you've done. For the families of those warriors and veterans, thank you for your service, because these warriors can't go do the tough things we ask them to do unless there's support behind them, unless they've got their head clear, it's pointed forward, and they know with extreme confidence that their families are going to be taken care of if something happens to them. Incredibly important. So please, don't take it for granted. You know, Mr. Schumacher, again, we've got to carry on what your generation so dearly sacrificed for and those before that, as you took the baton pass from them, and we pushed the baton on to the others. Thank you very much, and again, this is a great event today. Hopefully, will be a, the inaugural event for many more to come. And thank God that I really didn't get out there and play golf to my limits. Otherwise, I would have been handing out helmets, because I defy the law of physics when it comes to a golf ball. And for those of you that, or whoever dives in those that lake out there, they're gonna probably find about 3/4 of the ones that I was hitting today. So, but again, thank you to the club here. Thank you, Naperville. Thank you to the community for what you're doing. This is a tremendous show of support, and it's where it's needed. So, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, Frank. And on behalf of Naperville Response for Veterans, Jamie Metcalf's got a beautiful award we'd like to present to you for being our featured speaker today. Thank you for your message. Thank you for your service, sir. We also have a little presentation for Jen as well. Jen, if you can come up. Jen, thank you for sharing your story today, and for being with us, and for everything that you're doing. Got a little memento from Naperville Response for Veterans for you as well. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and just on a lighter moment, we're going to give some golf awards away. It's hard to do that, you know, after having Jen and Frank come up and share their stories with us, and an amazing day. I'll echo the sentiment of thanks to the community and thanks to White Eagle. And thank you again to Brendan McCormick for all your hard work. Jamie's going to be helping me give some awards out today for some golfers who are much better than I am. Oh, I'm sorry, Jack, very appropriately stated. We're going to have Jack Person come up and make a Quilt of Valor presentation first.
I want to thank Frank, Jen, Jamie for what you brought to my eyes today. Naperville Responds appreciates your presence, as does all of Naperville. God bless you. God bless you. God bless your loved ones. Today, the Quilt of Valor goes to cover service members and veterans touched by war with comforting and healing that is known as the Quilt of Valor. We're talking today about a humble man. August 6, 1942, this young 17-year-old high school student left the security of school and home to join the United States Navy. The United States had declared war. This young man served till the end of the war and then returned home to finish high school. We're talking about John Shoemaker, fireman first class, served his country aboard submarine duty. 1944, he picked up his first duty aboard the USS Thresher. They patrolled off the Philippines and the China Sea. John was then reassigned to the USS Place, the sub that continued to patrol the waters in the China Sea just off the coast of Japan. There, their fifth patrol, as you know, I said August 6th, he joined August 6, 1945. Now they were patrolling the coast of Japan. He received orders. They received, their sub received orders to pull back from the coastline. John was on watch in the engine room that morning when they pulled back, went underwater, and hopefully were undetected when a vacuum hit the ship. It hit the sub, setting off all the warning lights and alarms in the engine room. Certainly, concern was the sub and crew, unknown what was happening at that moment. The sub was fine, but unaware of what created the vacuum and if there was unknown damage. The next day, John learned, as the crew did, that while off the coast of the enemy waters, the United States had bombed Hiroshima. The effects of that atomic bomb felt miles away and as well underwater. The USS Place received 6 battle stars during World War II. John is an example of the mindset of a teenager in the 1940s. Volunteer. I'm here to protect the United States, honor the flag, and sign a contract with the United States of America to serve my country, and if necessary, give my life. John, World War II was some 29,000 days ago. Today, we want to thank you for your service with the Quilt of Valor. Rita, would you come up here? Rita Pennington is our representative for the state of Illinois. They have made over, this is our entire nation, since 2003, 280,883 presentations of the Quilt of Valor to our U.S. servicemen and women. In the next 2 weeks, they're going to be doing a flight of honor for women that served in the United States military. They're going to Washington, D.C., a plane of approximately 108 women. They have created 108 quilts of valor for these young ladies that served our country. John, if you would stand, we'd like to wrap you with the quilt of valor. John, we're proud of you. We're proud your daughter's here with you and your son-in-law. And as a countryman, a Navy man, I thank you for your service. God bless you. Thank you for your service, your sacrifice. Valor is serving our nation, and you've certainly shown that in World War II. Upon World War II finishing, he did return home, finished his high school, and raised a beautiful family, and his daughter Jill is here today with her husband Bob, who is a our ringer on the golf course. We also have another presentation for you, John. This is from Naperville Responds. Jamie is going to make the presentation on behalf of you. We want to thank you again for your service. Jamie, thank you so much. And that presentation is one of our flags that we use to honor people associated with Naperville Response for Veterans. Please take this as a thank you for the city of Naperville, Naperville Responds, as well as our Navy SEAL program and foundation. God bless you. God bless your family.
And last but not least, our winning team with a score of -16. Andy Stewart, Dave Hendrickson, John Cornish, and Dave Schaff. All right, we have 865828. 865. Oh, couldn't have happened to a better person. The Santos Clans donates $100,000 a year, and every once in a while they give it back. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure now to introduce Jamie Metcalf, who's going to come up and make some closing remarks, and I'd like to thank Jamie for her courage and her bravery in sharing her story and all of her contributions. She's a new board member to Naperville Response for Veterans. We love having her. We love the fact that we could support this event. We look forward to doing it for years to come, Jamie.
Try to make this short. I know it's been a long day. Last week it looked like it was going to rain, and I looked up and I said, David, Ryan, David, can you guys just like push the rain away? It was supposed to be 82 and raining all day, and it was in the 70s. No rain, all sunshine. And I know that was because of our men. I know they were watching over us, as they always do. So I want to start off with a story, a short story, of course. A few weeks ago, I went to a wedding for the first time since David had passed. And I saw an old friend. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, I heard about your husband. I'm really sorry." I said, "Thank you." As I was leaving, he met me outside and said, "Hey, Jamie, how'd your husband die?" And I said, "He died by suicide." And he said, "Oh, don't worry. I won't say anything. Your secret is safe with me." I could have reacted one of two ways. I could have gotten really angry and said a mouthful. Instead, I chose to educate. 3 days later, he sent me an email, said, "I need help." And I said, "I'm here to help you." And we found him the help he needed. It was at that moment, my confirmation that what we're doing here today is important. Raising awareness on how CTE, TBE, TBI, and PTSD affect our nation's heroes and their families. David and I wrote love letters to each other every night, just in case time escaped us. We wanted to make sure we always expressed how much we meant to each other. On the morning of January 2nd, 2 months after he came back from an 11th-month deployment from Afghanistan, I woke up to find a red envelope attached to the door. In the envelope was not one of our typical love letters. This was the last letter David wrote to me, telling me that he had committed suicide. And along with the letter, he left a stack of concussion books and a letter to his new command saying how sorry he was for leaving some loose ends behind. The letter David left me detailed a silent battle he was fighting alone. I shared this with some of his teammates, and to my surprise, many of them expressed that they too were experiencing the same struggles as David. Some cried on my lap, saying, "This is me, this is me." That is when I realized I needed to do more. I made it my mission to carry on David's legacy through my commitment to my community, learning more about these invisible wounds and educating others. I want to thank all of you for being with me today. With your continued support and compassion, we can destigmatize suicide not only in the military, but also in our own communities. I have a list long of people to thank. I want to start by thanking Robin King. I know she's not here, she was here earlier this morning. I want to thank her for taking the time out of her busy schedule to come here this morning to speak and support all of us in this cause. To Jen Collins, my big sister, in this journey and someone I truly look up to. She was the first person I found comfort in because she let me know I was not alone. To Frank Larkin, who inspired my mission by sharing his son's story. Frank, thank you for encouraging me to share David's story, loud and proud. In your words, our loved ones died in combat. They just didn't die right away. I'd like to thank White Eagle Club. Thank you for welcoming with open arms. Thank you for letting this be my place of healing for me and my family. I will forever be grateful. Navy SEAL Foundation, Christina. Christina was, she helped us organize this whole event. Thank you for all your support for the last 8 months, no, 11. Naperville Response for Veterans. Thank you for all your support. You two also welcome me with open arms. You listen to me, you help me share my story, and you treat me like family. Now to David's friends. The Pearsons and Danny Nesbitt. He's around here somewhere. Oh, hi, Danny. Thank you guys for always being by my side. I want to share one more quick story. I promise I'm almost done. Before David went on deployment, he got a few bottles of whiskey. One went to a group of guys, and the other one was saved for 2 of his best friends. And he wasn't able to give it to one of them because he was on deployment. I want to thank, and it was for Quinn, and I found it. I found a note that said, "Please leave this for Quinn." Quinn, unfortunately, the bottle broke while we were traveling. I ordered you a bottle and it just didn't come in on time. So I got you something. For the meantime, one of David's other favorite bottles of whiskey. And I want to thank you for always being by my side. You never say no. He was there with me on the plane, in North Carolina, all the time. I love you. My family, my mom, my dad, Jeffrey, Jerry, Gabby, Paige, Faye, thank you so much for your love and support and for dealing with me the last 2 years. I know it hasn't been easy. I promise I'll let up. But I love you very much, and I don't know what I would do without you. To the golf committee, Stella, Tim, Kim, Ashley, Laura, Brendan, Meg, and Tim, thank you so much for putting all of this together. You knew my heart and my purpose, and you knew you had to do what you had to do. And I appreciate it and will always be grateful. To Brendan McCormick. Brendan, okay. I met Brendan last year. I was introduced to him, as you all know, and he became like the Papa Bear here at White Eagle to me. I think most of you here know that. Brendan, I just want to say thank you. I believe you're my angel on earth. And I don't know what I would do without you. We love you. Frankie and I love you and your family. And we feel like you made us feel a part of your own as well. And to everybody that attended, thank you for your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm asking you to carry on David's legacy by showing compassion, kindness, and grace to others. Thank you.
Go ahead and grab a drink and enjoy yourself. Thanks for coming out.